chose it, which means you can change it.
Hey, say that again.
Or call 866.
Is that better?
Oh, way better, yeah.
Okay, great.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, and we can get started in a second.
You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet Talk Radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network, your voice is now heard.
Welcome to Bridges with your host, Dr. Paul.
Okay, we got 30 seconds.
Thanks, Al. Methods in martial art.
No problem.
Natural sciences. To further his knowledge of the holistic sciences, author Dr. Paul is here to help promote clarity and understanding and to help facilitate making informed decisions. You learn to trust yourself, opening you up to a new world of connection, relationships, and care. So
And 5, 4, 3, 2, and we are back.
Hey, welcome to Bridges, and I'm your host, Dr. Paul. We're welcome to another Monday night, 8 p.m. Every Monday, you catch Bridges with me and Dr. Paul, and I always like to have some guests and conversations about getting our knowledge to our understanding, because ultimately, like I say, when Bridges is that we can know something, but what do we understand, and how do we understand it? How do we bring that into our living and our life purpose? So today's bridge, I always like to name a bridge, and I'm going to say the Sydney Harbour Bridge. The Sydney Harbour Bridge is a beautiful bridge if you've ever been to Australia. So, and also like to associate with a human rights, and today's human rights is the right to a nationality. It's funny, like I get these comments that are like, why do you keep doing the human rights? And I said, ultimately, I want people to remember that we are always in a constant, I don't want to say fight or struggle, but we have to recognize people for who they are and what they can do in our civilization and treat them as human beings. Not everyone gets treated as a human being, and that is important to me, and I believe that is something I want people to recognize every day, because if you recognize someone else as a human being, hopefully you take that pause, that slight pause to say, hey, that person is just like me. That person is me. That person is my brother, my mother, my sister. Any living being on this planet has a purpose, and the purpose is to thrive. And I am so thankful to have Miss Melissa on the line. Miss Melissa, come on in to the Bridges.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing? First, I want you to before we get into our conversation, but introduce people to yourself and the community of Bridges, people coming home from all over the world, and let us know what you do and why you do it. And we'll go from there.
Wow. Okay. What I do and why I do it. Well, that's a loaded question.
I know. Bang.
I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm a former self-hater turned transformational love leader. I own an international organization, an academy called the Intuitive Intelligence Academy that I founded, and I have the opportunity to travel the world on a mission to raise, social, sustainable, conscious awareness and spirituality through supporting people in healing their lives, into really transforming from the trauma that they've experienced and turning that into a wealthy, healthy lifestyle that actually helps them to create. And so, I speak all over the world. I'm a #1 best-selling author. I have 3 books out. Been on all sorts of different platforms and things, but I really came to all of this because of my own crap, my own trauma, and really not loving myself and having a lot of really crazy experiences in my 20s and early 30s that brought me into this process of healing intuitive intelligence that I now get to share on a worldwide platform.
And I agree with you, Melissa, because I think all of us, even myself, I will say not all of us, myself included, came through a lot of pain in my own personal life. Either coming out of PTSD or just things that I had lost my vision in my way. I've always had the we call the education part in my life, but again, that's why I called itself Bridges for me, because it's not so much what you know, it's what you understand about what you know and how to bring that back into your life. So I agree with you, that trauma, us living it, and I teach emotional intelligence, as you know, and how we can understand what we are feeling and what it is and how it affects our body, then we can move forward. And you speaking all over the world, I am thankful that you are able to come on my platform. And it's not my platform, it's Bridges, and I'm just a host, and I like a conduit with people and then sharing our life experiences, because I think if we share our life experiences, everyone gets to grow and everyone gets to learn and everyone gets to be just a little bit better.
Absolutely, and I'm really honored to be on here. It's kind of, I always look for signs and synchronicity for when things are meant to be happening. And my fight today was coming on the Bridges first. I think that I call myself a bridge between the world of science and spirituality because of the science background that I have and the world that I live in, but also because I'm headed to Australia to do a 5-week tour, leaving at the end of February, and I'm actually working with the Department of Justice and some really incredible organizations for trauma and government over there, and a lot of really cool things. And you talking about the Sydney Harbor Bridge.
Isn't that funny?
I'm like, these are all just signs that I'm in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely. So I think when you talk, okay, when I give a lecture, whatever, I do have to let people know that we're a human and that we are part of this ever-growing consciousness. And I know people have been using it for a long time, or it's been now not just a phrase, but consciousness, subconsciousness. So what is it about your trauma, and if you don't want to talk about, what is it about your trauma that you took from it that made you propel yourself or propelled you into this thing that we're doing now?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to talk a little bit about my story because I've shared it on stages all over the world, and I think it's a really powerful place to be in when first off, 70% of all adults have experienced trauma.
Yep.
And we're living in a traumatized society right now, and some people are like, oh, well, trauma, that word doesn't fit me, and I tell people, well, think about it like this. Trauma really it's just emotional shock from an event, right? So from an event that sticks with its emotional shock. Most of us have had some sort of emotional shock, whether it's you got your hair pulled when you were 5 years old, and somebody made fun of you, that could have been traumatic for you, to something like my story where I was on the adverse childhood experiences. There's 10 questions, and I was a yes for all 10 of them by the age of 10. And so, it doesn't matter which spectrum you come from, your body and your brain respond the same to trauma or to emotional shock, no matter whether the degree cognitively, whether we can think about it, whether we consider it to be bad or real trauma or not. The body and the brain don't delineate between the two. It's not like, oh, yours is worse than mine, mine is worse than yours. It doesn't matter, right? And right now we're living in a society where there's a lot of stuff going on with the government. You can be traumatized just by government stuff that's happening, or there's a lot of people that are unhappy with who our president is, and there's a lot of people that are happy with it. There's a lot of people that are unhappy with how things are going in this way or that way. These can all be traumatic experiences. The way that you grew up in your family, whether you're whether you had family that was loving, like you 5 love languages, maybe your love language was personal touch, but everybody else in your family, their love language was gifts, and so all they did was give you gifts your whole life, and you wanted a hug, and so you were traumatized because you didn't get enough hugs. If people don't understand that that's really what it's about, and for me, I had no idea that I had trauma. I mean, even though I had been sexually abused, I had points of time when I didn't have enough food to eat, where I had all of these things happen with family members that had gone to jail, but I thought I was okay. So I got into my 20s going to college, and I was a high achiever, graduating from college, summa cum laude, straight A's, perfectionist on the outside, but I was hiding in closets and biting my arms and leaving marks on myself. And then I got into drugs after I graduated from college, and but I would have never said I was traumatized. I would have said I was having fun. I was like, I'm figuring it all out. Everything's okay. I didn't realize that I was using all of these things to create, trying to find that space of escapism or healing or a way out of the trauma that my body was holding on to. Because the thing is with this experience, our bodies hold on to emotions. Our bodies hold on to shock. Our bodies hold on to trauma. And then it starts to create a pattern that repeats over and over and over again. And whether that pattern's healthy or you are not, it doesn't matter. You survive. So the brain and the body say, I'm just going to keep doing that thing.
We're going to, Melissa, we got to take a hard break real quick, and we'll be right back. We're going to talk more about trauma. I just want to let people know you listen to Bridges and Miss Melissa, and I'm Dr. Paul, and we'll be right back. And we'll talk more about this trauma and how the body holds on to it. You listen to Bridges on the BBM Global Network. Give us a call, 877-475-8570.
All right, we are clear.
Miss Melissa.
Yes.
Let's break down the science and how, because I teach cellular biology and the physics of the trauma too.
Awesome.
So let's get right into how one trauma stays in the body and how it affects the organs.
Okay, sure, yeah. I love to talk about the memory and the mind and our creation of that and how that goes in and where we create that with our brain waves and the alignment behind it and how we can. And then I love to talk about the healing, so I talk about heart alignment and using our feelings to heal and the coherence and triggering positive biological changes and stuff. So
absolutely.
Whatever you want to talk about, I'm in.
Hey, and I'm so happy I picked the Sydney Harbor Bridge. It's just a beautiful. To me, it's because it has such a long span over that beautiful water, and and since we're so far away from each other, I just wanted to pick that bridge. It was just a bridge that came to me early this week.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
Or merely a sick attachment helps readers clearly distinguish healthy, loving relationships from toxic ones. Ms. Reeves has put her words into action through Ray of Hope Kenya, an international initiative that provides outreach to victims of abusive relationships. There, with the goal of helping them rebuild their lives and the tools to avoid abuse.
All right, we got 30 seconds.
All right, thanks, Sal.
And credits her success to her diverse work experience. Whatever your goals, whether striking a balance, reinventing your image, or simply lifting your lifestyle, Pamela Reeves will help you achieve them. Your life, your call. Dial 410-902-5715 or email Pam at
10 seconds.
Pam01@verizon.net. She's also on the web at
And
pamreeves.com
5,
and
4,
on Twitter at
3,
Pamela_Reeves.
2, and we are back.
All right, thanks everyone for joining Bridges on the BBM Global Network, and I'm your host, Dr. Paul. Remember, you can always give us a call here. You can email me throughout the week, or you can email the show and give us your comments, what you think. And the people who have contacted me with their emails and saying how much they enjoy the show and what they get out of it, I like to tell you, as a teacher or as an instructor or a sharer or passionate, bring out your notebooks. If you're listening to the show, bring your notebook, because if you're taking notes, you're having questions, I hope you're picking up something, because I think so many of us know so many things, and there's pieces and parts and puzzles that you're piecing together here, and this is therapeutic, awesome. But if this is education, beautiful. But ultimately, I hope you're taking something away from Bridges so you can cross that bridge yourself, right? Because we all have bridges to cross daily. I mean, my little short story, I picked up my daughter from the airport, and in New York, I think we crossed 5 bridges. And to me, when I'm thinking of the show Bridges, there's always something with a traffic jam, accidents, people doing all kinds of, and I know people are either going home, coming from, going to, and they have troubles in their cars. I mean, we can use metaphors like we carry troubles, like we carry luggage in our bags and stuff and junk in our car. And like when Melissa was talking about, the body holds it. The body has a cellular memory. And we're going to talk about that right now, Miss Melissa. Let's get into that cellular memory, because on a cellular side, like you said, perfect. The body doesn't know if it's happening to another or to you. It just absorbs. So let's continue to go on with that, Miss Melissa.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about, like, if you have a physical pain in your body, right? Like, where did that actually come from? So we work with cancer patients. We work with people with physical injuries, with tumors, different things like that. And we're actually able to go back into using the processes that we do into the cellular memory of the body, into the cells, to find out when was that first moment when that disease started to be created? What was the thing? And it's always connected to an event or an emotion that got trapped in the body. So maybe you were having an experience and you were talking about walking over a bridge. Maybe you and your daughter walking over a bridge and you see a car accident, and that creates like an emotion in your daughter, and so that emotion gets stuck in her hip, say that. And then 15 years later, she's got a hip issue, and it's because she didn't clear the energy from the emotional shock of seeing a car accident, right? So we have these things at these cellular levels that we can learn how to clear and learn how to heal, because 99% of all disease is from our consciousness. It's not our genes. They have proven that through epigenetics now and through the experience of understanding that our environment and our consciousness are actually what's creating the disease and the issues in our body. So when we to resolve the physical issues and to resolve trauma and to resolve these things, we first have to look at things at a psychological level and begin to process the emotions and the thoughts and into the feeling, so that we can release chemicals in the system that will allow the healing in the body to be cleared.
So one of the things that, if we want to talk about how it sticks into the body and how it travels down the spinal cord, is that once the cell divides into its food process and all those other processes, remember, if you remember the study done with the scientists who did it with water, your body's mostly held with water. Yeah. So a lot of that memory is held into those water particles of your cell, and that's how it transfers throughout the body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so there's ways that we can actually work towards healing this at a core level. And so a lot of the thoughts that are out there, a lot of things that have been presented to talk about, using our thoughts or using our mind to heal. But what they've now proven is that the heart has a brain on it. They call it the little brain. And that actually the brain on the heart, which has 40,000 special cell sensory neurites on it, that act independently to think and learn, remember, feel, and sense. This little heart brain controls the cranial brain, and thereby that controlling the body so that we can heal. So we can actually create a resonance and a constructive interference through the feeling in our heart, and through creating a coherence between the heart and the brain that allows the body to heal. And so by harmonizing these two organs and using these together, we can start to heal at a cellular level, so that we can use, just like you were saying, the water in the body, the cerebral spinal fluid, all of those different things that we can use. We control that through actual vibration and feeling, and through the heart space and the heart brain controlling the brain in our head.
And that's perfect, because when we talk about the cellular vibration, and that's the code we're referring to, Now, people are going to have the question, how do I change the vibration, or how do I change the trauma, and then in changing that change the vibration?
Absolutely. It's one of the biggest questions that I get, and this is a technique that we teach to kids as young as 3 years old. It's a very simple technique that allows the heart and the brain to start connecting and to literally start changing our vibration. You don't have to think about something. You don't have to worry. Like a lot of people talk about cognitive therapy when you go into cognitive behavior therapy or go see a psychologist about your trauma. It's like talk therapy. Well, what we want to do is we want to give you a way to actually get the body to stop reacting.
See, Melissa, I agree with you.
If you don't mind, I'll teach everybody this technique.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
but I totally agree with you. I don't dislike talking. That's not the. I don't. This is. I'm not bashing talking. What I want people to understand that you can heal from the inside, and you have to understand where it's being blocked before you can actually start unblocking those traumas, and then you can get into the healing part. I understand there's cognitive therapy that needs to take place, but there's definitely this got to be an internal that needs to take place, and we'll come right back to that. You're listening to Bridges, and I'm Dr. Paul, and listening to Miss Melissa, and we'll be talking more about the trauma and how to heal that. She's going to give us more techniques. You listen to Bridges on the BBM Global Network, and I'm your host, Dr. Paul.
All right, we are clear.
Sal, is that better?
First-generation British-born Londoner.
Sound?
Yes.
Dr. McLean inherited the hunger.
Talk to me.
Hello?
Is a Bible teacher.
It is, yeah.
Thank you.
What happened?
I changed the mic. I was using a different mic.
Oh, why didn't you say that before?
Yeah, but I didn't think it was the mic. I thought it was just a setup.
Yeah, it sounded like it was the room.
Dr. McLean is also a songwriter and recording artist, and her songs are written during summits and conferences in the presence of God. She's recorded 3 worship.
Miss Melissa, how long ago did you write your book?
Alongside her husband, Dr. Rennie.
I had one come out in 2015, one in 2016, one in 2017. I'm on my 4th one right now.
Yeah, I am working on my 5th book, and a lot of my books I try to use, I hate to just use things, I want them to use it like a workbook, more like so they can keep writing in it and using it and getting pieces from it, and not just a readable book, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm actually working on a holistic encyclopedia, an algorithm for people that because people use different stones and that has different effects, and the stars have different effects. So I'm trying to combine all that in one educational book. That's kind of difficult.
Wow, that's an impressive undertaking.
Every area of your life.
10 seconds.
What's happening to you? You chose it, which means you can change it. Visit www.expectingpower.com.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, and we are back.
I'd like to welcome everybody back from Bridges, and I'm your host, Dr. Paul, and talking to Miss Melissa. And I just want to say thank you so much, Miss Melissa, for coming on to the air and talking about this, because I totally believe in the science and the education part, because people can read so many different books and get so many different ideas and philosophies, and I think that's wonderful, but ultimately they don't have an understanding, and if they don't have an understanding, there's no way, I don't think they could put it into practice. And if they can't put it into practice, then what are they doing? It's like wasted. So let's get back into that trauma and about the techniques. We were talking about cognitive therapy. Like, again, I don't want to tell people that cognitive therapy is bad, because it's all good. If you're doing something to better yourself, it's amazing, it's good. But on an internal level, there is, like in martial arts, there's an energy, there's a chi that you have to unblock and move, and movements take it, an intentional, purposeful action of breath, understanding of what your cells and blood does do and doesn't do, helps you remove some of those cellular blockages, those internal blockages. Go ahead, Miss Melissa.
Awesome, yeah. So this technique that I'm going to teach you that I call heart breathing, what it does is it triggers over 1,300 positive biological changes in your body, and it accesses them simultaneously and directs them to healing, so that you can actually change the gene, because one gene can create 3,000 different types of proteins, and so one gene blueprint can be changed by actually shifting the way that your body reacts. So your vibration is your vibration, and this is the most important communication on the planet. And when your body is vibrating or communicating at one level because it's traumatized, it's sucking all the energy out of everything, and that by itself is creating these patterns in these genes that keep replicating the same cells over and over again of bad genes. So what we want to do with this heart breath is we want to start triggering these biological changes in the body, and all you need is 3 minutes a day. And so this isn't some life-changing, you have to change your whole life to do, right? Everybody thinks that change is difficult or hard, or that you have to overhaul everything. But this little technique will start to create positive changes in your life that will help your body and your mind to heal, and from there you'll want to do the next step. You'll want to do the other things. So just take a moment. If you're driving, do not close your eyes. But if you are not driving, then close your eyes. You can do this with your eyes open, but learning to connect into your body sometimes can be difficult for people that have never done this before. So I like to say practice with your eyes closed if you can, and then you can do it all of the time with your eyes open. But if you're driving, let's keep your eyes on the road while we do this practice.
You know, one thing I found.
You're going to just
One thing I found, Miss Melissa, is that people are afraid of their internal self. And when they come and they talk to me, I have asked them, I said, have you ever listened to what your body's been telling you? And most people say no because no one's ever taught them, and I get that. But when I do my first session and they start to actually listen to their bodies, they become actually afraid of what their body's been telling them or that they're receiving from it. Have you found that?
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of people, and we've been taught that we're enemies of ourselves, right? Like that our intuition is scary, that we can't listen to ourselves. This is stuff that's been planted into us by other forces that don't want us to have the power within ourselves, because then we can be sheeple and we can follow the crowd instead of branching out to create ourselves as powerful people. So it's been, it's a whole system that we have grown up in that has kept us from internalizing and really getting to know ourselves.
So when people are, so I hope people are listening to this, and Miss Melissa, before we ever leave, and make sure you give people your information and your email and your website, but I hope people are writing down that first you have to meet yourself, and once you meet yourself, then there's a guide next purpose and your understanding of what you need to do to start clearing the roadblocks. Yes, there are trauma. Like Miss Melissa said, there's trauma that happens all the time. And we ignore it because we think they're so small and so minute. But if you look at yourself as a small baby, and I'm thinking of my granddaughter, the newly granddaughter, and when something happens to her, just like if a dog licks her face, she jumps, her eyes blink because she's never had it before. That's traumatic to her. It may seem simple to us, a dog licking the face, but it's very traumatic.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to go back and I want to share this technique with everybody because I want them to be able to do this so that they can take away something that they can start doing right now. So again, the heart breathing it's just 3 minutes is all you're going to do, and you're going to, like I said, if you're driving, keep your eyes open. If you're seated somewhere at home, you can close your eyes, and you're going to imagine and feel and see that there's breath coming in. You're going to be breathing in for a count of 5, and that breath is coming in through your heart. And as it's traveling in through your heart, it's traveling up, all the way to the crown of your head. Now that's called the crown chakra. It's the pineal gland for the scientists out there, and the left brainers. So we're breathing in through the heart, seeing this beautiful light and breath come in through the heart, and it's breathing up, and you're taking it to the top of your head, that crown, and you're holding it there for a count of 5. And when you hold it there for that 5, you're going to feel this tingling sensation maybe start or anything like that. That just means that you're activating all of this yumminess inside. And then you're going to breathe out for a little bit longer for a 7. And you're going to do this for 10 times. And that's a little bit over 2 minutes. And as you're breathing in, and you're breathing in this breath through your heart, you're going to start to feel a feeling of love or gratitude or appreciation. And this feeling of love or gratitude or appreciation, that's what this does, is changing your electromagnetic field, the torus that actually sends out from your heart. It's shifting that vibration so that your body can start to heal. So you want to feel this. Now, if you have a challenge feeling love or appreciation or gratitude, then I want you to go back to the last time you felt it. Remember the best day of your life, and bring in that feeling and that experience, because you've got to connect into that so that the body can start to break the synapses and the wiring that comes with your trauma. So you're breathing that in, feeling this love and this gratitude, holding that up at the top of your head. When it gets up there, hold, and then breathing out deeper and longer. And you're going to start to notice that your body starts to, your mind starts to calm, your body starts to chill, and you actually start to get this feeling. You're bringing your body into a 0.1 megahertz vibration, which is the same as the vibration of the earth, and you're coming into an alpha state. And this will start to help your body to heal. You just need to do this starting on today.
We're going to take another break here, and we're just flying through this show. You listen to Miss Melissa, and I'm Dr. Paul. Listen to Bridges. We're right back after this break, and we're going to continue on this technique. We're right back.
All right, we are clear.
Little is known about this time because
That was a beautiful, beautiful technique. In Tai Chi, they call it fire breath.
Ah, lovely. Fire breath. I like that, fire breath. I do Kundalini yoga, and they have fire breathing, but some call it breath of fire, but definitely not the same.
Do you want to go over because you want to go over the type of breathing, or you just want to let that lie a little bit? Because some people will just breathe. People never learned how to breathe. That's funny. And then
I just like them as long as they're breathing through their heart, like they're bringing in that breath in through their heart. You know, they literally want to see it coming in through that way. I mean, otherwise, this technique is the basis one. It's so simple. We're not trying it because we teach a lot of other breathing techniques and lower chakra breathing and moving the cerebral spinal fluid.
Right.
You know, but that can be all that kind of stuff can really challenge someone if they're not in it. I like to keep it simple and just teach them about the vibes and the vibration and a simple way of bringing that in so that they can just harmonize.
Coming back in 30 seconds.
Thanks, Sal.
And has been featured in numerous publications. She's exhibited at the world's most prestigious museums and galleries, and recently won a 20-year service award, thanks City Council, and the inaugural art competition of the Foundation of the United States in Paris.
Visit
10 seconds. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and we are back.
Welcome back to Bridges. I'm your host, Dr. Paul. And you can always catch us on Monday at 8 p.m. at the BBM Global Network. Remember, the podcast comes out around about Thursday at Iheart and ITunes. You can catch you can catch the podcast, and you can always email me throughout the week if you have any interest in what we talked about on the show and clearing up some information. Of course, I can direct you to Miss Melissa, but I wish she's going to give her information before she takes off, of course. And we are definitely always going to have her back on and with her travels. And let's talk about. So when we talked about the heart breathing, and me and Melissa was talking with this off air, is that Tai Chi has what you call fire breath, and it's a movement that goes along with it. And being on the radio, it's tough to describe the movement, but there's a movement that goes from the kidneys type to the breath to the heart movement, and then it goes to the crown, and that's part of the Tai Chi movement that is hopefully taught in some Tai Chi classes. If it's not, maybe a teacher doesn't know it, maybe, I don't know. But Miss Melissa, we're going to continue to talk about that heart breathing and how simple it is, just 5 minutes a day, and it opens up. And you were talking about how the body feels, how the cooling happens in the body. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the body is the subconscious, and it holds on to these, these trauma and these emotions, and what the brain trains, the body gains. So by using this breath, right, this breath through the heart, feeling it coming in through the heart, and we are actually creating this coherence of healing the nervous system. And so by using specialized techniques, and there's many more than that. This one's just a super simple one. Like there's what Dr. Paul is talking about with the Tai Chi. We also teach something called lower chakra breathing, which breathes it all the way up from our perineum and shoots it up all the way through to the head. Like these types of things allow us to create these new connections in the brain. And by doing this as a repetition, right? Like I said, why are we doing it every day? It's like, think of an Olympic athlete. An Olympic athlete didn't get there by doing it once and then never doing it again. Your body's not going to get there by doing it once and never doing it again. So this breath, doing these types of things, using the body as a tool, as an instrument, will allow you to really integrate this and make new synaptic connections. And so you want to repeat this because neurochemically the conditions in the mind and the body begin to work as one, and it becomes automatic. So then you don't have to sit there and do the heart breathing all the time. You become a walking, that becomes part of what you're doing, part of your walking. And so you start to create these new synopsis, start to create these new experiences by doing this simple little breath. And this is something like I was in Nepal and India last year working with sex trafficking with young girls and young kids, and this was something that we were teaching the kids as young as 3 years old. It's that simple to use that helps them to get over the traumatization that was in their bodies, and so that their bodies can start to heal. So if they can do it, anybody can do it. This is a very just simple technique. And Paul was asking me, like, can we talk more about the different types of breath? And I'm like, well, we can get into that deeper. We teach a lot of that stuff, but I want something that's going to be simple that everybody's going to do, because I think everybody's willing to do at least.
And I like what you said. What your brain trains, your body will retain. And I've always said about the living practice, and I put that in a lot of my writings. The living practice. We have to start creating things that causes us to live fully and not just survive. And it just seems something like we have all these memes, and I don't dislike memes, and I probably do memes myself and put nice phrases out there myself, but I hope it keeps attracting people to their work, to put in the work, to put in just a little bit of work so their body can start healing. Because, like you said, we all go through trauma. We go through some more extensive than others. I have daughters who also been physically attacked and raped. So we all have that they had trauma, the family had trauma. Everyone's got a trauma that they're going through and getting over, but that does not create healing. Healing takes work. Healing takes you putting in the work so your body will start to change its environment and its atmosphere internally.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the key. That's exactly what we want to do, right? We want to be able to start changing everything on a cellular level, because then what's the magic of this? The magic is we don't want to just heal our trauma.
Right.
The goal is that we want to manifest, right? We want to create these divine futures. We want to create awesomeness, and by healing the body and using the body as an antenna, then we get to consciously create our new life. We get to actually live into our future. And that's where flow comes from, or manifestation, or miracles, when we're actually in alignment with the field, the collective consciousness of the field that we all exist in, and then we can use that to actually, we can use it to heal our trauma, but then what else, right? Now we can use it to create our lives, to create abundance, to get the job that we always wanted.
Right.
trip that we always wanted to have, or the marriage, or whatever it is, and then we can use that to connect into what I call the God field, which is this infinite field of possibility that we all exist on. And by doing that, we realize the place of all possibilities, and that the energy of the quantum, or what I call quantum miracles, and this moving force that affects us and allows us to heal.
I got a question for you, Miss Melissa, because on my big board and on my little chalkboard that I keep, and I ask other people this question too, because I ask it myself all the time. Do people need to have trauma to start understanding that their life is purposeful?
I don't believe that they need to have trauma to understand that their life is purposeful, but I do believe that most people need some sort of, I call it coming to Jesus moment, or or a 2x4 over the head to wake up to it a lot of times, because and whatever that is, I think that we live in an experience where we're not just enlightened enough to be like, oh, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to do all these amazing things, where we need something that propels us into a new experience. In the future, I'm hoping that there's going to be an experience where people will learn to move by grace instead of the 2x4. But until then, I think a lot of us need a 2x4.
We're going to take another break. I tell you, our engineer Sal, he's like, it just seems like we start talking, and Sal says we're going to take a break. So we're right back for another break, and you listen to Bridges on the BBM Global Network.
Okay, we're clear.
I know. I'm like, darn. I'm like, yeah, already?
Yeah, another break? Jesus, Sal, what are you, speeding up time?
We only got 2 more segments.
Miss Melissa, when we come back from this break, make sure you give your information and then talk about your book, and then I'll let you go, because we only have 2 more segments, and the last segment's short.
Okay. Perfect. Got it. Will do.
Do you collaborate with writing books and stuff like that? Have you written pamphlets and education pieces?
I have. I've been in 3 collaborations, and currently working on the one book that I'm working on now. When I was in college, I did some work with some professors and things, but I'm always collaborating on other stuff. I'm meeting with several different psychotherapy and counseling organizations when I'm in Australia, so I'm sure we're going to be doing some work together too.
Permission is to help people affected by the loss of hope and trust in their lives, and to rediscover the wonders of nature. The nature-connected learning, so they can rebuild their lives.
When do you take off Australia?
Hope, trust, and joy.
February 25th.
Okay.
A Washington State certified counselor and chemical dependency professional. She is passionate about partnering nature with healing, and through horses, she sees amazing results and transformation in lives that might have otherwise been lost.
10 seconds.
Call 509-830-9225 and visit her at
And 5, 4, 3, 2, and we are back.
Welcome back to Bridges. I'm your host, Dr. Paul, and we're talking with Miss Melissa. And this is just such a beautiful show. And I kind of was thinking, when we went to break, we were talking about how fast the show's going, and it kind of makes me think, and it's understandable why, because when things are passionate, when things are connecting, it is such a smooth, silky way that it flies through. It's like a moment in time and a time in life. So it's especially when you're with your loved ones or a special one, you just hold on to it. It just seems to, the time dissipates, it disappears. And that's something that I hope people can get either with their hobby, because a lot of people I've found out that they don't have hobbies. And a hobby is something you're putting your heart into that responds to yourself. It just gives you back what you put into it. It's just something that's relaxing. It can be anything that is relaxing that you let time disappear. And that's what a hobby is. Hobby can be something, it can be anything, but it doesn't have to be something that you're just good at. It's just something that your heart flows and flies and time disappears. And I think that's how this conversation is going with Miss Melissa, and I just want to have to thank her for that. So when we're talking about when your body's remembering things and how it holds on to things and giving the technique that Miss Melissa was giving with the heart breathing, allow this purposeful action and intentional action to work its way through this journey we call life, because this isn't the only plane you're working on. So let's hear from Miss Melissa. We want to hear how to get a hold of her, her books, and in her email. Miss Melissa?
Awesome, thank you. So you can find me on all social media accounts. My name is Melissa Brinkley, or if you go to like Instagram, it's melissa.s.binkley. You can also look at my website for me personally is melissabinkley.com. But I'd really love you to check out the academy that I'm the founder of, the Intuitive Intelligence Academy. You can find that also on all social media and intuitiveintelligenceacademy.com. And we do retreats and events and immersions and trainings and conferences all over the world, from Australia to Bali to Africa to India and Nepal and to here in the U.S. We're in about 15 different countries, and so we teach these techniques all over. So I'd love to connect with you on any of those. If you want to reach me personally, you can email me at melissa@melissabinkley.com. And, I'll be happy to give you more information, can connect you with phone numbers to talk to people at the academy or anything else that you need, and so that you can really find out more about what we do. So I'm so honored to be a part of that. My next book that's coming out, my fourth book, is called Chuck It in the Fuck It Bucket, and spiritual lessons to leading a life of surrender. So it is about what you have to let go of and surrender to actually lead the life that you want, and it's going to be really a lot of fun. But if you go on Amazon.com, you can find my other 3 books under my name, Melissa Brinkley. They're connected to me over there. Invincible, Women Who Inspire, and Journey to the Stage are all on Amazon.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Chuck it. And
I hope I can say this because I'm going to say it.
I'm getting ready to go down to work with some NFL players, the Hall of Fame week and Pro Bowl week. And we've been talking with some collaborations with the NFL that I happen to get some connections with. And these players are committing suicide from CTE. And a lot of these players who are still playing, who their bodies are traumatically being injured every weekend, right? And it's causing their afflictions on their minds when they stop playing. And I talked about this in a conference call with the NFL rep, and he was like, he was so surprised that's going on. I said, your players are looking for an outlet, and I understand that. And I'm not going to talk about what they have to do in the field, but when they get off the field, their body is breaking down traumatically, trauma, and this is why they may have CTE. They might. They probably do. Most of them do. But the committing of the suicides because their body is being afflicted with so much pain and they don't know how to release that pain. So we're going to work with some pieces there, and that's part of that trauma you were talking about too.
Let me know about that, because the techniques and stuff that we're doing are so powerful for that. However I can support you, Dr. Paul, let me know, because suicide and that kind of stuff is super important to me, and with what we teach too. So I'm so excited you're doing that.
Yeah, and like when you're talking about, because I have a daughter who was a cutter, and I had another daughter who pulled their hair, right? So we understand this because we've always been working on, and most people didn't know my daughter was cutting until she came out. She says, yeah, I was suffering through some pain, and now we talk about it all the time. My family is just constantly talking about these triggers that people try to hide, and these traumas. We got to stop hiding the trauma, and we got to let people know that love will conquer all. I agree, but we've definitely got to work on that internal wound.
Yep, absolutely. Yes. Oh, so powerful.
with that technique, let's go over that technique real quick before we have to take our last break, and I'm going to end up letting you go. Let's go over that technique and let's see people write it down there.
Okay. So the technique is super simple. It really is. It's just breathing in. When you're breathing in through the heart space. So you're seeing the breath, feeling the breath come in through the heart, or what they call a heart chakra, right there, the space right in your chest. And you're breathing up, and as you're breathing up, it's traveling all the way to the top of your head, the crown of your head, the pineal gland, and you're holding it there. You're squeezing and holding. So you want to squeeze those crystals in that pineal gland. You want to really open up that space. You're going to hold it there for a count of 5. So you're breathing in for a count of 5, holding for a count of 5, and then breathing out again through that heart space for a count of 5. And I like to imagine that there's a light, a beautiful light coming in with that. And you repeat that breath, that 5, 5, 7 breath for at least 10 times around. And while you're doing that breath, you're going to feel a feeling of love, appreciation, or gratitude. This is the most important part. You want to feel that feeling, because this is what's going to start to shift the body and release all of those 1,300 positive biological changes in the body, start to release the chemicals. You want to feel that feeling while you're doing this breath.
30 seconds.
There he goes again. Thanks, Miss Melissa. We're going to cut Miss Melissa go. She's a busy woman. Please contact her, contact me, and I will contact her and let you know you have questions. And then I want to thank Miss Melissa. Safe travels. We are connected, and our vibrations most definitely. And I definitely want to wish you safe travels. And I will contact you with these players too. So we have a lot of work to do, and I think all of us light workers are doing what we can. And as long as we keep being light workers, we'll shed the light on darkness. I do believe in that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we're going to take another break, and we listen to Bridges, and I'm your host, Dr. Paul, on the BBM Global Network. Remember, you can catch us on Iheart and iTunes Radio. We'll be right back.
Okay, we are clear.
Thanks, Miss Melissa. I will text you and call you and text you later.
She hung up.
Okay. You know, sometimes, Sal, it just happens that way. We're talking, and all of a sudden you're like, 30 seconds. I'm like, wow, that's fast.
Yeah. Well, it really isn't that much time, 8 minutes.
Jobs Annex is a former employment search firm. We've evaluated many thousands of resumes. We understand what employers want and what job applicants need to be successful in their interviews. At Jobs Annex, we provide you with the tools to tell your story for free. Our resources at jobsannex.com help each applicant construct winning resume, an eye-catching cover letter, and key interview questions to ask for various types of interviews. Best of all, it's free. JobsAnnex.com. That's JOBSANNEX.com.
Essential Nutrients LLC is the brainchild of entrepreneur Barbara Burns. Inspired by a desire to help others.
Oh, it looks like we have someone on the line.
To develop unique
Hello?
liquid supplements.
Hi.
Hello.
It's me.
You caught the last break.
Hi.
This is the focus of Essential Nutrients.
My son so basketball games just since I literally just was rushing home to get to.
We got 30 seconds.
Essential Nutrients offers products for everyone, including the family.
Dr. Call me tomorrow.
No pill.
Okay.
Health requires commitment, exercise.
I gotta talk to you about something important.
Supplementation and action. So take action today and get your supply of essential liquid.
All right, we're coming back in 10 seconds.
www.essential-liquids.com. Don't put off your health.
And 5,
Take
4,
essential product
3,
today and start
2, and we are back.
Welcome back to Bridges, and I'm your host, Dr. Paul, and we were just talking to Miss Melissa Brinkley. And of course, we'll go over and it'll be on the social media that you can always contact her. You know, I love doing Bridges. Bridges is just a passion of mine. It's just absolutely wonderful because I know we have just so many people out there who are just kicking things and moving it along, and hopefully this helps you in your journey and your practice. Remember, the bridge today is the Sydney Harbor Bridge, which was fascinating because Miss Melissa was on her way to Australia in February. And then also the human rights is the right to a nationality. nationality, your own nationality. I mean, you could look up the information in your dictionary and definition, but the right to a nationality. We have rights. You have human rights. You have living rights. You have rights that just belong to you, to being a human being, a life living purpose. So, Miss Ashley, welcome on to Bridges. You just made it, being mama, taking your kid to basketball, right?
Yes, darling. Braylon, my son, he just finished his game. Unfortunately, they lost by 3 points, but it's okay. It was a game. They went into overtime. That's why I'm late. There's a lot going on. Get serious. When parents get serious, we get serious.
I know, it's still important for us to be parents. And a lot of parents, I would have to speak for myself, we don't pat ourselves on the back and saying, I'm doing a good job. I'm a good parent, or I'm doing the best I can, and I'm proud of myself. Do you say that to yourself?
You know what? I just actually started saying that to myself. I had to take some time out to actually, give myself a pat on the back. So yes, we do need to do that more often. Society actually doesn't let us do it anyway. We get, judged on everything that we do with our kids.
So let me ask you this, Miss Ashley, being a positive person that you are, knowing that you've gone through a lot of struggles that you have been through, why did it take you so long to start patting yourself on the back?
Well, because, I didn't feel like I was worth patting myself on the back. Everything that I was doing, somebody always, either judged me or, said it wasn't enough. I'm always constantly giving everybody my all, and I don't even receive any credit that I don't even look at it. I don't get it. My accomplishments, and I don't care. I did it for you. So, but mostly because, but we're actually, to be honest, my mom. My mom was always hard on me, and nothing was never enough for her. So growing up, I never thought I was enough.
And that's tough, because we were talking about this today, about how things creates that simple trauma inside our bodies, and it causes us to stop a lot of things. And one thing it can stop us from doing is from recognizing that we are not just a human being, but we are all special human beings. We are all special. Right. I don't want to ever deter anyone who has hate inside them, because maybe they don't know they have hate inside them. Maybe they don't know that they're bitter people. Right. Maybe they don't know that they're just evil, but they still are special human beings. But we have 30 seconds, Miss Ashley. Give us a little phrase that we can take off on before we close up Bridges.
Love yourself and look beyond your ego.
There you go.
Positive mind, positive vibes. Just be you all the time.
Thank you, Miss Ashley, and I will talk to you later. So before we close up Bridges, I want to let people know: 1, love yourself. 2, do the 5-minute work Miss Melissa was talking about. And 3, recognize that your body has trauma, and learn how to let it go and heal that, so you can start living your purposeful life. I'm your host, Dr. Paul. You're listening to Bridges. Remember, this is the Sydney Harbor Bridge and the right to a nationality. Namaste.
This has been Bridges.
All right, we are clear.
Explore new ways.
Bye, guys. Okay, Dr. Paul tomorrow. Please don't forget.
I won't.